All right. It's your buddy CA LETRE. So I got a special guest tonight. We're gonna do something where I can learn something. Invited one of my buddies over here, future society of gentlemen, person that I respect. I will be sending you, future, the link on your email. If anybody wants to be part of the discussion, make sure you email askaclassicblackman@gmail.com, askaclassicblackmail@gmail.com. So one of the things that I realized is these guys who are zealots, these guys that are so ingrained in group thinking, that's where they want to hide. They are very afraid to be asked questions. What's really weird is people like to pretend that they are they do this pretending thing. And when you go into a group, you're not just talking to one person. You got several people trying to do gotcha stuff at the same time. It is a very weird thing. It is a very weird thing. And you wonder why the black males are not able to move forward the way King Sigma does, the way that future society of gentlemen does in his marriage, the way CA LETRE does. They hide so much. And something I really realized, and it's like, wow, I didn't realize dudes were really fearful of engagement. Nobody's hating. Nobody's hating. Jeremy, nobody's hating. This is just, anytime somebody says something to me, I handle it, Jeremy. And people get upset because I handle it like a warrior. Why you had to do it like that, Mr. Research? Because I'm a warrior. Why did you kill everybody in the group? Because I can. And why you sound so arrogant? I'm not the initiator. I reply. So this is the funny thing. But aside from all that, there's no worries. There's no issues. We're not bringing up no names. What I'm trying to get some of you people to understand is zealot black men are more dangerous than the women. The zealot black man, you see why he doesn't want to compete. The zealot black man, he wants to hide around people who agree with him. He doesn't want to be intellectual. So what I ran across is, and I'm emailing this again to future society of gentlemen. Hope he gets it. But what happens is you get these guys who, when you ask them a question, and I'll tell you how this whole thing came about. I'm going to give you a linear situation. That way, the people that I'm talking about don't get emotional about it, because it's over and done with for me, even though people are trying to bring it up. If you talk about a murder that happened, okay? If you talk about a murder that happened, and I'm going to allow future society of gentlemen to correct me on this, but if you talk about a murder that happened, okay, and the murder is under investigation. This goes to you too, Antonio Keys, Bunker TV. The murder is under investigation. But Detective Thomas has ruled out the parents of John Benet Ramsey. He said John Benet Ramsey parents got an excuse. They got an alibi. That's what Detective Thomas says. And Detective Thomas is respected in the LAPD. But the case is still not closed. Key thing here, the case is still not closed. What I found out about zealot black men, these group thinkers, they don't want to hear that the case is not closed. The zealot thinkers only want to hear one thing. What did Detective Thomas say? Huh? But Detective Thomas has nothing to do with the case. I mean, he's one factor of the case. No, No, Detective Thomas is respected with the LAPD. So what? What does this have to do? What does this have to do with the murder case? Oh, see, Mr. Research, you want to be right. Huh? It's the weirdest thing on the planet. It's like, whoa, what just happened? Whoa. So when you're talking about a murder case, and the murder case is not solved. Murder case is not solved. And you're talking about the murder case. Then the question goes, just because Detective Thomas has a theory does not mean the parents are off the hook. And only thing that these zealot black men keep saying is, well, Detective Thomas has already cleared them. You're not hearing that. Don't need to hear it because the case not closed. Now, here's the funny part. Detective Frank comes along, who also works for the LAPD. Detective Frank comes along and says the exact same thing that I said. The parents are back on the table. And none of the zealot group objects. It is the weirdest thing ever. So I got FSG here. I sent one out to King Sigma too. I'm only letting 2 people up here because I want to get educated. Now I got this show. I got another show. I got 30 minutes of this show. I got another show. And then, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be on TV later today. Are
you promoting a book?
No, I'm just being CA.
Gotcha.
I you know what? I realize that it's my fault that people like Cardi B exist on the political plane, and you got to put your face out there and start having these higher level conversations so that the black sons can get represented before one of the goofballs get up there. If we get one of the Tommies up there, then that's all they're gonna know about. Black.
Well, you should only take 25% of credit for that.
Why is that?
Well, as I've been saying a lot in the chat room, and I think it goes over people's heads.
I love your microphone, by the way. Jesus Christ, that's good. Go ahead.
It's is that you live in a Western society. And in the Western society, it's a lot of permissiveness, it's a lot of individualism. Now, this is not a negative. There's a benefit to it, but there's also a negative to it. And in a westernized, individualized society, people are encouraged to be individuals and not give a damn about which way the wind blows.
Okay, and
right. Or I'll give you a more concrete, practical example. Let's look at the Megan Thee Stallion situation.
Okay.
Now, we always talk about the top 20% of sisters that who we should be going after and concentrating and putting our energy into.
Okay.
But the majority of that same 20% wants to extend the same protection that they've earned to the Cardi B's and the Megan Thee Stallion.
Very true. Very true. But that's those 50-50 brothers. That's not the higher level or family men. But go ahead.
The men, I'm talking about the 20% of women that we should be pursuing. They still want to extend. In other words, the same chick who stayed out of trouble, who's that everything she's supposed to do, but whatever that may be, start a business, go to school, whatever the case may be. She wants her doctor husband her engineer husband to extend the same protection that he has provided for her to Megan Thee Stallion.
All women,
to all women.
Mm-hmm.
Even there's another case that we have. I don't see. I can't. I'm gonna find the name of another female who killed her pimp and is trying to walk away scot-free. Now the story is he you know, they don't put it in that, they don't put it in those terms. What they say is he purchased her and then she killed him.
Okay.
Now you and I know the game. We know it's way more complex than that.
Yeah, way more complex than that. Because at the end of the day, she chose the lifestyle in some form or fashion.
Exactly. She chose to kill that person. However, American sympathy, and Kim Kardashian got this started, is saying we should let these women out of prison scot-free.
Right.
I don't necessarily disagree to a certain extent, but then you need to extend that same level of protection to men.
True, but here's where my pushback would be, and you know, we as guys have to start encircling ourselves. I'm financially committed to this other brother, and we're going to financially do something unique on YouTube for Black YouTube, and hopefully it creates a domino effect for the Black sons. I'm not really interested, and I told this person and other people who may be involved later, I'm not interested in things that don't benefit the Black son. That's not even my discussion point. It's not all inclusive no more. If our daughters get what they get it by proxy. If our wives get what they get it by proxy. It's going to have to be this Black son theory as a primary.
Don't tell Dana that now. You're gonna get snapped.
I've said that to Dana to her face a couple of times. You know, so yeah, I've kind of mastered that Dana situation. You know, that's I was on the panel with her the other day. You know what I'm saying? And what the Dana types are very good at taking away power. But I had to study how to deal with that, and now I've mastered it. So it's not even. Not even no more.
Well, you just have to be a dude who, I mean, you recognize power.
Yeah, true.
She's a female that is. I mean, dude, if you're lacking anything, she got you by the neck.
Yeah, she on it. She's grabbing your nuts. Yeah. A matter of fact, they were talking about something that had to do with sexuality, and she really went after this person who did not represent that conversation very well. And hey, we all had a great time in Comedy Land listening to her. Do what she did.
Right. If you are a person that cannot explain yourself and all you can do is generalize and categorize, right, you're at a loss.
But this is why I said in the Wolf teaching that it was about being a decision maker, and you understood that when I first said it. It has nothing to do with whether you win or fail. But let me stick to this topic because we only got so much time. My thing is zealots. Zealots are fanboys. And what's so crazy, I look at how, and I'm going to talk about Kevin's situation too, that he has over on his channel with his definition today. As an established man, I understand what Kevin is talking about. I understand what family men are talking about. And I understand what 50-50 guys are talking about. But I do not understand group thinkers. Because to me, group thinkers are way below monolithic guys. Monolithic guys are on a code. But educate me if I'm wrong. I think monolithic guys are on a code. But I think group group thinkers are into heroism. Who showed them that peaches actually do have fuzz on them, and they're amazed by the knowledge of the guy who told them that peaches have fuzz on them. Well, dude, pick one off the tree. Go to an actual tree, pick it off. You or buy the tree. But educate me. My whole purpose is to get educated right now. Go ahead.
I mean, you've thought about this clearly. You're right. And I mean, of course, you're generalizing. It depends on the group. But in general, you're correct. At least a monolithic person, you may disagree with their philosophy. You may disagree with the direction in which they're headed. But at least they have a code and they're heading in that direction, and they're actually putting in the work. Whereas a group thinker, just in general, they hear about the lion in the cave, but they never go over to the cave to check out whether there is actually a lion in the cave.
Never.
They just heard about it.
Yeah.
And they heard about it from this person and that person and that person.
So let me give you a linear explanation of this comical thing that I ran into. So a person was talking about a crime happened. Okay. A crime happened, period. But let's be clear. We don't really know if a crime happened. We just know there's a child, but B'nai Ramsey not here. Okay. I'm not going to put the fact that they found her body. I'm going to put she's not here right now. Okay. But in actuality, you don't know if a crime happened. Okay. Detective Thomas is respected at the LAPD. He says the parents of B'nai Ramsey are cleared, but the case is still open. Educate me. What does that mean to you?
It means exactly that to me. And me using my common sense, I know that police never fully clear anyone.
Exactly. So let me mix it to the actual conversation. The actual conversation was, well, no, you're a smart person. Again, I'm gonna let you educate me. I don't know what you're gonna say. To you, what is the difference between a theory and a study?
A theory is at best a hypothesis that you may have tested under a controlled condition. And that's at best.
Mm-hmm.
An actual study is when you're actually testing that hypothesis or theory. And in the midst of this study, you may form a new theory or a new hypothesis.
So it still ends into a theory.
Well, you may actually come out with the end result of the study. You should have concrete results. You can't really call it an application because the whole point of this, you can't call it an application just yet. Because once you get the results of the study, concrete raw data back from the study, then at that point you can start forming certain rules or a course of action from that standpoint.
But they must be able to apply outside of your study.
Exactly.
Okay. So if you only do one study in Michigan, you never do a study in Texas, you never do a study, because as we all know, regions, locations do matter. You cannot say this study is concrete. It just doesn't make sense. But you're telling me Detective Thomas said this study has already concluded that it works, but he hasn't finished. Whoa. That's why they're looking for more information. Whoa.
No.
What did you just say?
because once you come back from the study again, you have to decide on a course of action. And then what you do with that course of action is you're just basically throwing it out into the wild. And that's when you actually get the real results.
Exactly. I'm going to put one more person up here, D-Darrell. D-Darrell, I'm going to put it in your email. So, see, my problem is when you're talking about a crime that is still a cold case, it's still unsolved, it is linear to a study. You applied some theories and came up with a measure. But until you apply it in different areas, it is still a theoretical study. It still falls back to a theory with study attached to it. It is True. Not, it is not, everybody in science knows that. But a person in science is telling me, no, it's already been determined it can't be this.
Well, hold up. Well, if you're talking about in the context of a scientist, then to them, that's different because most of their activity is swirling around studies.
Exactly.
Most academicians swirl around studies. They can claim to be an Egyptologist, but they've never been to Egypt.
That's my point. You got people with basic, and this is something a lot of people don't know. You got people with basic biology degrees calling themselves biologists.
Exactly.
So I'm like, hold on. Can I ask the question? No, it's already been answered.
Well, no, hold up. See, I work in the lab, and see, I get these samples, and well, did you go collect the samples? No, but that doesn't matter though. I've done more than you. I've done more than you.
That's what it comes down to. I've done more than you.
Here's something you can relate to. In healthcare, one of your clinical managers tried to tell me, long story. I'm gonna make this real quick. My mother was in palliative care towards the end of her life, and she messed around and caught an infection. Okay. She still had about a year or so to live, but she messed around and caught an infection. And one of these clinical managers tried to tell me that there's no way that a bare hand on a fork passed to my mom could have had a germ on it.
Oh, that's bull. That's bull.
And then I'm a clinical manager. I got this degree, that degree. I said, yeah, but does a degree have? I said, boo, I learned this in 9th grade biology.
Yeah, that's impossible. And to your point, somebody was saying that in this controlled environment, said subject would walk over other dead subjects, but it's still that is ruled out. Okay, now you got to explain to me how is it ruled out? Because if the subject is walking over dead subject,
right?
And they said some of those subjects were eating some of the dead subjects. How are you then not factoring in the eating and the walking over as if by some omnipotent rule system, kind of like a tech guy?
Well,
go ahead, educate me.
Well, I really don't have to educate you. You already know the answer. And it's something that I had to get older to understand. A lot of people are really out to prove their own bias. Exactly. You already have a bias built in. And so anything that takes away from that streamline, because nothing in life is linear. Because I noticed how you said linear.
Right.
And you have to put it in those terms because that's how most people think in a linear fashion, even though we live in a 360-degree world. So go figure.
True. It will never truly be linear. True.
Right. True. So most people and most scientists are this way. They already have a preconceived bias to something. That's the whole point of the hypothesis.
And
It's already a bit, and then you proceed from there, and you ignore all of the other factors that could have changed your results completely.
And they're trying to prove their theory to justify their paper, to justify their grant.
Exactly.
But see, when I say it, it's bull. Somebody else comes on and say the exact same thing. Nobody says nothing. So maybe D. Durrell's going to disagree with me. D. Durrell, okay. All three of us are in some form of science field to some degree. So I'm not as clinical, but I'm over 2 decades of dealing with this stuff. This is just stuff that I got to know off top. So D. Durrell, I'm gonna give you a crime scenario first. Are you there, sir?
Yes, sir. I'm here, brother. How y'all doing?
Everything's good.
Everything's good, bro.
All right, so I'm gonna mute you a little bit, few just so he can hear clearly. All right, so D. Durrell, you got Detective Thomas is investigating a crime, but I'm gonna tell you, you don't truly know if there's a crime because you don't have a body yet. Okay, so this person's investigating the crime. They say the parents of Benet Ramsey have an alibi. That's what Detective Thomas says, right?
Okay.
And Detective Thomas is respected by the LAPD. Before I give you anything else, what does that mean to you?
Well, far as that point, I mean, to me, this is just, I mean, they're assuming you can't really, there's no evidence to prove anything at this point.
Detective Thomas says there is.
Based on what?
You can't ask that.
What do you mean you can't?
No, you laughing. I'm very serious. This is what the group told me. That's already been answered. It's already been answered that Detective Thomas has ruled that out.
Okay, the only logical way I could think of him continuing to assume that we can't ask that question if something is not credible about the alibi.
Well,
if the alibi
we can't even get that far. So let me give you the other piece. And so far, the crime is a cold case. It's still open.
It's still a cold case.
Yep.
Well, based on the limited information and lack of evidence, I mean, it's just a waste of state money pursuing this case if you don't have any evidence to support.
But we do have evidence that the parents of Benet Ramsey are not involved.
That they're not involved?
They have an alibi.
Okay. So then the only thing you can do at this point is pursue other potential perpetrators.
Absolutely. So now that you said that, that's different than what Future said. So now that you said that, let me give you this other piece of information. So another guy comes in and he's just looking at the cold case from the beginning. And he says the parents are not off the hook. Just because Detective Thomas says that doesn't mean anything. And the entire LAPD gets upset.
Okay, what is his basis for them not being off the hook?
Because Detective Thomas hasn't proved to him that the alibi holds.
Okay, so now we're going back to the credibility of the alibi. That's some suspicion.
Exactly. Now the LAPD gets upset on some group thinking, because you know it's all about who's most loved, and Detective Thomas is most loved. So then Officer Frank comes in and says the same thing this guy says, and Officer Frank is respected by the LAPD, and the LAPD says nothing now. Now that Officer Frank says this is the exact same thing. Now, what do you think?
At this point, if another officer, if the third officer seems to be consistent with the second officer, and you still have no response or a lack of response, then it sounds like the LAPD is not doing their job. And for some reason, for some hidden reason, they don't want to pursue who really killed the child.
Okay. Now I'm going to take you to the second phase, and then I'm going to clue both of y'all in on what the actual facts are. So now, D. Darrell, give me your version of a theory versus a study.
Okay. A theory is basically a educational point of view, or an educational, I would say, somewhat of an idea of why certain things occur.
Okay. And the study?
It's not a law, but it gives rise to why certain things happen, and from an educational perspective. The actual study itself is actually an active way, or analysis that's basically structured in a systematic way to uncover variables that contribute to a certain result or occurrence.
Okay. Now, if that study is not finite, if that study is inconclusive, let's go to future, because you didn't get this part. If that study is inconclusive, how much weight do you give the study, future?
Almost no credibility.
Okay. All right. And D. Darrell, if the study is inconclusive according to the creator and his peers, they're still trying to get more evidence. My question to you is, what do you consider of that study?
It depends.
Okay.
It depends on the reliability and the validity of the study.
Well, that is only limited to the credibility of the creator.
Well, it is limited. It is the creator of the study does have a large responsibility, but when you're collecting the data, it depends on how if the data was collected in an unethical manner, I would say so.
Again, you can't judge that. You can't judge between if a hobo did it or the creator did it. You can only assume that the creator did it because the creator is presenting it as, I created this light bulb. That does not mean that a slave in the middle of the night didn't actually create it.
Well, so we're gonna put the onus on the credibility of the researcher himself.
That's the only place you can put it. You can't put it on the study itself, because the study has not gained any validity because it's original in itself.
Okay, so
or
explain to me. But let's see, the thing about it, what I'm looking at it from the researcher standpoint, what would be the circumstances that you feel that the researcher was being biased in the study?
No, I don't want to say that the research was being biased. That's not my point. My point is the strength. Every time I look in history, the guy who studied animalistic behavior, the guy who studied he claimed he found all these animals that were gay in the wild, the guy who first studied sexuality, I look at what was their reason for doing that, and to what degree is their history of doing studies? Because in history, back to the Victorian age, and I want to say his name was Grant, he did studies to stay paid so he could pay his rent. So he would go to the French king and say, are you interested in this? Would you like to know the complexities of it? Okay, give me a wage and I'll spend the next 6 months or a year digging into this and bring you back results. And now 6 months later, after that's finished, now you're looking for a new one.
Okay.
So that's where credibility starts to waver, because it's the same reason we had somebody say that because of our skulls, Black people were uneducated because look at the diameter to the nose, and he was credible during his time. But go ahead, Darrell. I'm here to learn.
He was credible during his time, but other research later on debunked that.
Later on, keyword, yes.
Yeah. So I mean,
but look how many people he damaged in the present who took his theory and ran with it and hurt other people because of what he said. True.
So basically, if the researcher is unethical, or let's say he's doing things from a more he has a underlying agenda, then the research.
If you can prove it,
then the research is no good.
Right. Let's hear FSG. Go ahead, FSG.
True. And that now again, and I hate to be the exception to the rule person. In general, what D. Darrell's conclusion
No.
is
That's
true.
what you're here for. That's what you're here for. I
right.
like you to disagree.
Right. That is true.
I want you to have full time to say it. Go ahead.
But really, what people should do, let's just say, for instance, you are even interested in the study. Just because somebody has a preconceived bias does not in and of itself make the study inconclusive or not any good.
Hold on.
I
got to crack a joke. I'm sorry. D. Darrell, you see how some people hide from the police with the cocaine underneath their arm and can still stay on the phone? Now that's gangster. Go ahead.
As much as that was a joke, there was a part of my life where that was true. Never know what's going on. Anyway. But yeah, I mean, in general, yeah, you can dismiss that study. But if a person did really put in their time to do the study, because you can tell when someone actually put in time and a lot of research into something, you can therefore then take that same study and try to reproduce the same results or similar results to see, was there a hidden bias involved?
Absolutely. All right, so I'm going to tell you what this whole thing was about. We got a couple of more minutes before I had to do my next show with Sub-Zero. And then later on, I'm going to be on TV. I'm going to be on Fox Soul. Probably won't air today, but I got to get ready for that. So with that said, we were talking about the behavioral sink and the rodent study. Okay. Many people call this mouse utopia or mouse universe. Okay. And what this person did, he was a guy from Tennessee, born in 1917, died in 1995. This guy took a bunch of rodents and created population. I'm giving you a summation of what he did. In this pocket of coexistence, the rodents did certain things, behavioral things, formed cliques.
I got one, don't worry about it. I got it.
Formed cliques and all this other type of stuff, right? All right, so The rodents did all that. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but the rodents did all that. In this study, there were points in times where the groups would kill off other groups. If certain mice died within the study, they either ate them or walked over them, and what have you. So all I said was, well, we don't know why they do that or why even humans do that. But if you're using this particular study, just like LIKE, a disease, certain things tend to happen that are Mother Nature related that you can't explain. For example, I work in skin disease. There are white folks whose skin just explode into feces smelling bacteria. Can't really be explained. Ain't like a situation where they can stop it from happening you see what I'm saying? But that's all I said. And what I was told was, oh no, that was ruled out. First, I'm going to go to FSG.
Ruled out.
Don't you start. Wait a minute. Wait your turn, sir.
Oh, it was ruled out.
That was ruled out. And I was being obtuse, slow thinking for not getting it.
Ooh, how rude. That person already had made up in their mind what the two or three things they thought it could possibly be, or the possible causes of it.
You work in science, you work in lab, and you're saying that you don't agree with this scientist?
No.
Please continue before I go to D.
I'm just saying, no. I mean, this was what I was something that had slipped my mind. It's just like the theory of evolution with Charles Darwin.
Exactly.
He's an atheist. He came into the whole thing as an atheist. God does not exist. Why? Because a tragic event happened in his life that shook his belief.
And I'm going to go out of my way to prove
that God does not exist. And ever since then, because people have a linear way of thinking, they only want to stick to what they can prove and not what exists outside of themselves. There are just some phenomena on Earth and within the human body that cannot be explained. You cannot scientifically explain to me why a 43-year-old man who seemed perfectly healthy died of colon cancer.
Exactly. But that's been ruled out.
Right. But then I read the paper, and the 89-year-old and the 79-year-old have died of colon cancer. So really, what is the scientific explanation for that?
We can't use that because it's been ruled out. I'm just amazed that people would actually say this and the group would get upset only because I asked the question, why do you keep saying that as a statement of fact when you have nothing supporting it? Through your own words, you said it's inconclusive. So
because you didn't go through 8 years of medical study. That's
exactly.
Why.
And you know what? One person actually said that. They said, even though you have 2 decades in the medical, this is a science person. They actually said that. Now let's go to D. Durrell, because again, I'm here to learn. I don't want y'all to agree with me. I want
but however, even though you may not have the 8 years of you may not have that educational level of the training, doesn't necessarily mean that you're wrong.
Yes, it does, because it's been ruled out. And the group, because they love Detective Frank, have decided you can no longer speak because we've ruled it out.
But the whole thing is illogical.
No, not according to the Zealots. I'm being facetious on purpose. Not according to the Zealots, the group thinkers. Even though all of us here are in medical or science to some degree, we can't question that. We're not allowed to because the group doesn't want to hear that question. It's the same thing we talk about women.
But the group is not being objective.
Again, that later came in to be true because somebody said to me, you came into someone else's ninja training center where this particular ninja is adored. I said, I know. Well, you knowing that, you should have checked the room. Check the room.
But what does it have to do with wait a minute. But hold on. But see, if we're going to talk science is blind to the fact. So what the hell that has to do with real science?
No, the real science is based on facts.
I know that's what I'm saying. I'm sorry, I stated that wrong.
I say that in a jokingly manner, though.
Oh, okay.
But you know that's the general rule of thumb: is it's not science if it's not scientifically provable based on precedent, then it's not a fact. It's just a one-off phenomenon.
And I stayed in that ninja thing and ran several people away. People came in to defend their hero. And I said, no. It doesn't work like that. But I understand why you're here. Now, please continue berating me so that your hero will be impressed. Oh, you trying to dumb it down to that. Yeah, because what you're saying is not valid. Now, once again, I'm going to take y'all back to the crime analogy. I got to hurry up. I'm going to take y'all back to the crime analogy. Detective Frank comes in, who's respected by the ninjas, and says the exact same thing I said, and there's 2 seconds of silence. And I said, wait a minute, Detective Frank. So you agree with me that it's inconclusive and all bets are off and everything's back on the table? He said, yeah, because there's different variables that play into the outcome. Silence. Even the person that was a science person said nothing. What are y'all thoughts?
My thought is that they basically are not independent thinkers.
Zealots.
They're not independent thinkers, and they basically follow the perspective of somebody else that they adore without necessarily checking out the validity of their positions.
And one person in the chat room said, Mr. Frank is not a scientist.
Wow.
So because he agreed, all of a sudden you want to point that he's not a scientist. But even the scientist is right there. The scientist isn't disagreeing with what Officer Frank said. But okay. All right.
Okay. And the scientists also cannot disprove any theories or valid points that you bring up or any of these variables.
Because it's inconclusive. Now, let me hurry up. Let's dig into real quick the background of the person, John Calhoun. John Calhoun, born in 1917, had no other study credits to his name other than this mouse credit, a mouse study, which he did at several different college and or universities. What are y'all thoughts? Anybody?
Just one out of how many other studies? I mean, just they basically did away with the previous studies. They just only saw one as being legitimate, as a legitimate research report.
Apparently, and I really can't answer that question. I'm gonna give you what I have in front of me. The John Hopkins scenario. Well, it originated in theory mode at Ohio State in 1946.
Okay.
Actual things start happening in 1947, a 20-month study with 10,000 square feet of project territory in an outdoor pen, 5 females, which could have been a real deciding factor, and 200 individuals, and stabilized at 50. So 50 of them died off. Began with 200, 50 of them died off. They were randomly scattered throughout the pen. You really can't prove that, D-Darrell, but okay. And they had organized themselves into 12 colonies of a dozen rats each. He continued the study in Norway, I want to say 5 years later. Must have lost funding at Johns Hopkins, because that's the only way you do that. Family moved back to Maryland in 51. He worked for the Walter Reed Medical Center, so you must have lost your funding at the Jackson lab. Looks like you picked it up again in 54 and worked at the National Institute of Health for 33 years. So this is your life's work. You got to make it work. Going back to what Future said.
He doesn't sound like a good researcher.
This is what the black people were arguing for.
He doesn't sound like a very reputable researcher, and I also question the usefulness of the research, and that's probably why he lost the funding, because they didn't see the usefulness of why he was doing this in the first place.
I didn't realize he hopped around this many universities in this short of time span.
Yeah, that's pretty much my conclusion, because most researchers stay at a university maybe 20. They may change universities maybe once. No more than twice is very rare.
Yeah.
But you know,
and then on the fourth time he was there for 33 years doing the exact same thing. You at this point are paying rent off this thing. But,
so at some point he must have perfected, I guess, between 46 and say the time he ended up at NIH, he must have perfected a way of producing results.
What I was told by the Zealot group, that it's still inconclusive. The scientists said this during the discussion, and they're looking for his additional work that he supposedly had finished.
No,
but it can't be the females being only 5. It can't be walking over the dead bodies. It can't be eating the dead bodies. All that's ruled out. And these are black guys over the age of 25 telling me this because they love somebody, not because they're looking at the information. Now, my thing is, you should be able to just ask a question. Oh, Mr. Research, you're trying to be right. I'm in the wrong place. I'll never be over here again, because I see why there. And see, I walked away, gentlemen, saying I see why there's Crips and Bloods. I see why there's Crips and Bloods, because in every Crips and Bloods scenario for black men, somebody in that group loves hanging around somebody. That's why they're there. Educate me, because I could be wrong.
Sounds like the black manosphere.
So we know what he was getting to. Confirmation bias is the term I think we're looking for. Am I correct?
Hey, bro, I'm trying to learn. I this is just really weird for me.
I have noticed a trend in in the so-called manosphere of, if I can't come, it seems like now the trend is, let me just follow a bunch of chicks' social media and make a living off of that, off of the hypocrisy drama.
Right.
And not actually focusing on what brought us all here together in the first place.
And
why are we here?
D. Darrell, you have something different?
I actually was going to say something very similar, because that's basically, I mean, people have their own personal reasons for doing things that take away from the legitimacy of actually being, you know, as far as an issue itself. Whether, to me, it's not always about what the truth is. It's about what I can do to gain popularity, and at the same time, hopefully through that, make some coins. So it's all disingenuous.
You know what?
This is an atmosphere of disingenuousness. So
yeah,
that's right.
It's a weird thing, because like I said, I'm willing to be wrong, but let me ask a question. And what's so funny, when you're around these zealots, they don't want you to ask a question. They keep shouting out that's already been answered. You don't get it. And the scientist is saying that doesn't matter. It can't be the dead bodies. Well, why can't it be the dead bodies? Because that's been ruled out. You keep saying it's been ruled out, but you don't tell me how it's been ruled out. You need to go read the study. I've actually read the study. That's what you don't know, but that's okay. Anytime something's inconclusive or the person's still searching for the answer, me personally, I omit it, because as one of you gentlemen said, the information's already skewed. Because there's no finite conclusion. There's still a missing person. There's still a dead body out there. There's still a killer.
Well, what if we had a skinny, unattractive white woman do the study?
Oh, then of course, with some blonde weave in her hair, then of course it's all okay.
or she's a white bitch anyway. What does she know?
Yeah, that was just over the top crazy.
Wow.
Hold on 1 second. I think I'm gonna try to kill two birds with one stone, so don't go anywhere. Jesus Christ! No, I'm gonna give him his own show. So, gentlemen, I gotta get ready at 8:40. I'm going to be on the TV One network. So let me get ready for that. But I promise there's one other show. I'm gonna try to knock this out real quick, and then I'm gonna try to do that show. That show probably won't cast till tomorrow, but nevertheless, I'm gonna be on that, and I still got to send them my headshots. D. Darrell, as far as the marketing thing, I'm halfway finished with that. I'm off tomorrow, so I'll work on that tomorrow. For people who don't know, D. Darrell and I are going to launch something to combat YouTube's algorithm thing. And we're going to try to use he and I as the test models for it. As it gets better, we will invite other investors for the marketing side. Not the product side. It will be for the marketing.
You mean to tell me that you are going to plant a flag here? You're not going to run away to DTube or what is that? What's the new one? Black Share?
Well. Here's the thing. To be honest, and I got to talk with D. Darrell on that. What I have realized, one of our things we're going to do, we're going to tag in on some of those, and I'm not going to give away the formula. Nevertheless, YouTube is not going to be the thing. It will be the thing for one reason, because what's happening with YouTube, and I'll give this much to my followers because I love my followers. YouTube is giving every excuse they can to hurt a creator. Okay, D Darrell, is that you? Or is that a D Darrell? D Darrell? Seems like your phone is D Darrell. Okay, I don't know. I just want to make sure there ain't no person trying to show nothing crazy. YouTube is using any and every excuse, FSG, to say anything to screw up your situation. You feel me?
Right.
So therefore, let's treat it not the way they want us to treat it. That therefore, the strength of this idea is to use it as a certain type of vehicle and run everything else elsewhere. If you can contribute in some type of fashion, that would be great. But because I only want to deal with people I like, it's kind of a weird thing. So I'll reach out to you behind the scenes and talk to you about that. But okay. Yeah, we gotta create something, because as one of us, just like in my case now, I'm connecting with TV producers. I need to be able to pull a team. You feel me? I need to have Harlem World come behind Mace, and which actually I tell people was the most successful. Harlem World was the most successful after the fact hip hop group out of everybody. Out of everybody.
You think so?
Oh, no. I take that back.
Harlem World?
No.
Are you talking about Dipset?
I'm talking about that they're second. Let me say that. They're second because number one is Juvenile's Hot Boys. Juvenile was lead off. Hot Boys came after. He was part of the Hot Boys group. Harlem World was the only ones who were able to have a successful album without Mace, because the one I'm talking about album. I'm not talking about individual artists. See, you're talking about individual artists.
You're right.
Album. Because Young Money did not have an individual album success. Who else was that? I just had him. Junior Mafia did not have individual album success. They had one person, Lil' Kim. No other situation where a person led off and then people came behind. Boogie Down Productions did not have it. Nelly's Crew did not have it. It just didn't happen. Now there are scenarios where they happen individually, but
I look at it as pretty much. I don't really see anybody who without a. If you didn't come in with a certain plan, then you were not successful with it. And this is what I mean. Like, okay, you bring up Mason Harlem World, and then I could think of Cameron and Dipset. I could think of 50 and G.
Wait. Cameron and Dipset. Cameron wasn't really the lead off. Cameron was already part of the group. The only reason he even had any type of lead off was because Dame made him lead off. He was already group affiliated. He never was. I left Harlem. You got to remember, Cam was with Harlem World.
He was with them first.
Yeah, I never left Harlem World and did my own, and then here's my crew. No, Cam left Harlem World and became Dipset.
Right. And so that's why I was like, I don't know. Are you sure there wasn't Cam with Dipset as being more successful? But I think, but when you think about it, Dipset is really, without Cam, is really just Jim Jones.
Exactly. And that's why I said Juvenile and Hot Boys was probably the best.
I look at them differently because I think they already had a plan of doing that, just like No Limit. I think they kind of already, I think they had I think each of those artists were already solo, and the group thing was kind of, we're gonna do a collective album after the fact.
All right, I got to close this out because my other guest is waiting.
Yeah,
gentlemen, D-Darrell, what are your last words? D-Darrell, what are your last words? And then we'll do FSG. What are your last words, D-Darrell?
My last words is, pretty much very good discussion. Love the intellectual discourse that we had. Look forward to coming back on and having another conversation. Appreciate interacting with you, FSG.
Same to you, Mr. Darrell, and the same to you. And talked to you in a long time. And the only thing I'm going to say is, number one, it's okay to be a follower of someone, but you have to keep an open mind. And number two, just because you have an open mind does not mean now I'm going to turn into a rebel against this person because they said one thing I didn't like.
Hey, it is what it is. All right, gentlemen, I'm going to holler at y'all later. Let me go ahead and get to this next guest. Thank you, sirs.
Peace.
And you guys, I will be right back with the next guest and the next show.